think, Joe, I do think I know the fun we poked at each other. I think it's all in good fun.
Which is fine. Like, if you want to promote your pod, I totally get it. I'm not knocking your hustle. Do what you have to do. But one, don't lie. And number two, don't say domestic violence is jokes. That's
Podcast beef is back. And y'all know never gave up. Gotta talk about it. Now, this is Julian. He used to work for Rory and Maul's podcast. Y'all know Rory and Maul are the co-hosts of Joe Budden. And Julian, after, it wasn't even a week after he quit the Rory and Maul podcast, he was on Spaces linking up with Joe Budden. Now, I knew it was something up with this when Joe started saying, contrary to popular belief, I have a heart.
I had the pleasure of hearing Julian in a different space and hearing some of the things that he's going through on his own. And contrary to popular belief, Joe Budden has a heart.
And I want Julian to do well. And I want him to promote his podcast. And I said, Julian, I know you're not falling for this. I know you're not falling for Joe's diabolical plot. But the thing Rory had an issue with was, not only are you linking up with Joe, Rory says Julian lied when he said he was told by Rory and Maul not to talk to Joe Budden. By the way, I saw Julian making some crazy accusations about Joe at one time too, but let's see what Rory had to say about this. You better like the video. You better subscribe. Let's get it.
dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. No, I don't even know how that would come up in the office. Like, hey, Julian, if you happen to run into Joe on the street, don't say anything to him. Like, what? That's the dumbest shit I've heard. That was just a blatant lie.
Could it have been maybe someone else in the organization?
No. Maul didn't tell him that. Nope. So what? Julian came in the office one day and was like, hey, I really want to talk to Joe. And we were like, no. Like, come on. That's just stupid.
How do you feel about Julian joining Joe today?
I think it says more about him than it does anything. That's all.
Yeah.
You were just posting DV tweets about him a few months ago, and now it was just all jokes. Haha, me and Joe have an understanding.
It does seem like a line was blurred or crossed today. I mean, if you're saying that you never told him to stay away from Joe, or Maul never told him, or anyone ever told him, and
there's been times that Joe has said stuff on his pod, and we've said we're not going to say anything on the air. But Julian said, I was told I wasn't allowed to even talk to it. Like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. No one ever said that to him.
Do you think it was just kind of assumed no one could speak to Joe?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, if Julian was on Spaces with Joe talking when he was working with us, I would look at it as weird. But no one ever... That didn't even enter my mind that would be a thing. To let alone say it to him. I think he misspoke. He got caught up and nervous and was trying to save face. Same way with his poem when he was making up that people quit and it was just him and Damaris left. Like, Yomi moved to Atlanta. She bought a house with her partner, and then she also shot our Atlanta show. Rel didn't quit. He left because he has 2 kids and the hours were crazy. Rel shoots My Karma's Beautiful for us, and also if Peach isn't around, would fill in. Like, this whole people quit thing, I don't know. I just think Julian is... Go ahead. Change the narrative and the truth, the angle. Do what you gotta do to promote your show. I just think it's corny, and it's weird that you would joke. Like, oh, it was just, back and forth banter, and you joking about domestic violence. He said someone quit, and then another person quit. Seems like a pattern here. And then it was just me and my co-host. Literally the only 2 people that left were Yomi, that had been planning for months to move to Atlanta. We knew her date that she was leaving, and she still works with us. Rel, who has 2 kids and lives in New Jersey, couldn't keep up with the hours. Still works with us though. So yeah, you're just angling things to look crazy and to say it's just you and Damaris left when the entire staff is still there. Like, where'd Peach go? Where'd our entire social team go? Where did our booking team? Like, the whole crew is still here. Where'd our merch team go? No one quit. I've been very quiet about the situation to the detriment of our own brand, because I fully understand that our listeners have a connection to Julian and wanted more answers, but out of respect for Julian, I had been very quiet. Now you doing this weird, goofy, which is fine. Like, if you want to promote your pod, I totally get it. I'm not knocking your hustle. Do what you have to do. But one, don't lie. And number two, don't say domestic violence is jokes. That's all. I have no, like I said to you 2 weeks ago, week ago, I do not want to see Julian fail. Have at it. Just don't lie on me. Don't lie on my company. And that's about it.
Why the podcast?
I have been very, very respectful and quiet about the entire thing. Don't just start these narratives because you know how they, like, Julian's not a dumb person. He knows how this works. He knows when he says certain things how narratives are going to start. He's not dumb. Furthest thing from it. So, as someone that has been quiet about it, I'm just saying, stop lying. No one is trying to silence Julian. I just thought that was super weird when he did the poem thing of trying to end, like, people were quitting. If you had your opinions on other whatever, like, you just flat out lying about shit. And no one ever told you can't talk to Joe. Like, this is it's just weird to me. That's all. And I'm not Julian's enemy. That's why I find it even weirder. I think he doubled down a few times and cleared it up that he was, no, he doubled down and said that we told him he was not allowed to. He would have spoke to Joe in spaces. Like, oh, I've always wanted the combo, but I wasn't allowed to. Like, come on. That's stop it. That's stupid. Yes, if Julian would have done that when he was working for us, I would have looked at it very weird. But there was no time to even have that conversation or that scenario. Like, one day someone would have thought, like, hey, Julian, if you happen to be on spaces, don't speak to Joe. Like, that's who would even think that? Maybe this is the naive thing that I don't think everyone is just dying to speak to Joe Budden. So I didn't think that when I'm running a company, the first thing that I have to say is, hey, don't lay in Joe's lap. Like, I didn't think that was a thing I needed to tell people. So no, it never came up where when we were doing interviews, hey, this is like a big stipulation with us. You can't go in spaces and have conversations with Joe. Or if you ever happen to see him on the sidewalk, you can't say hello.
Well, we have Imani on stage. I don't know. You raised your hand. You wanted to come up. What's up, man?
No, you was making all the sense in the world. And here's why I think they think you, quote unquote, got packed out. You were not trying to bring up the real elephant in the room because you didn't want to put attention to your mans on a specific allegation that he has had in the past, which I'm not trying to get into now.
Thank you.
You were trying not to get to that point. And then a question was asked that got to that point. And then he deflected that question completely.
All right, it's good to know that someone's paying attention.
I was listening to that whole like, yo, how does everyone else not see how weird?
Yeah, no, that's weird, man. Just it's okay, and it's nothing wrong with being able to call that out.
What's funny is somebody that I do have love for, I hate to see being used, and I know for a fact, as someone that has known Joe Budden for over a decade, he is laughing at Julian every time he mutes his motherfucking phone. He is using you. You look nuts. This is not, he's not connecting with you like, nah, I see what you're doing. I understand you doing the thumbnails, bro. He's clowning you. Like, you look dumb. What Joe did was just some strategic like, oh, goddamn, you really wait, you'll come up on the stage? No way. I'm not going to miss this opportunity. I know Joe is sitting there like, ain't no fucking way he is down to talk. And he took the opportunity. If Julian is a grown man, he do what he wants to do. I would never try to police what he's doing, i.e. why he was completely lying about saying you could never speak to Joe. I just thought it was odd based off the things that he admitted that we never told. We actually told him to chill and not do that. The things that he has posted with those accusations, I'm telling you, no matter what a beef I had with anybody, fired, real beef, whatever, if I think someone is that, there's no way I'm now going to get on stage with them and speak.
Now, look, here's the thing. Let's just be real. You know, in the beginning of Rory's response, he was like, I get it, Julian trying to advertise, but don't lie and don't do this. But you got to remember, you was once in Julian's predicament where you left a podcast and you was trying to get it popping and you welcomed the back and forth with Joe at that time. Julian is happy you responding to this, Cause he's in that stage where he's trying to build up his own podcast. If y'all don't know, Julian got his own podcast where they doing poems and shit talking about Rory and Mal, which I think is corny as fuck. And we'll get back to those poems in a second because Joe was actually talking about this. And then that's why I knew it was something going on with this, but I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, when you advertising and you trying to blow up, ain't no friends, ain't no I'm gonna hold this past relationship and, you know, this opportunity that Rory and Mal gave me so sacred that it's gonna stop him from trying to get on and trying to make his situation better with his own podcast. He looking to grab audiences from everywhere. I don't even think Julian cares if he's being used by Joe, because for him, any exposure, all the attention is better for the brand that he's trying to get off the ground. Because like I said, that's the stage he's in. And shout out to Imani. Y'all can go listen to the space I'm talking about where it was Julian and Joe, and, you know, Julian told Joe, yeah, man, it was all jokes. And I was like, it was all jokes? It was all jokes when you was talking about Joe's allegations? But that let me know something about Julian. He's an opportunist, okay? And he's going to take this opportunity to be in these spaces with Joe to try to get as many people over to his podcast as possible. And going back to Imani, he was exactly right when he was pressing Julian. He said, bro, you could have at least waited a month before you trying to fuck with the niggas you used to work with ops. Before you started team hopping.
I don't think
Not
that's
after week one, maybe after a month one, but after week one, you already want to jump ship and come over and chop
it's
it.
that, but I think you're misconstruing. Joe and I are just having a conversation. I'm also not like trying to buddy up to Joe.
And I know Joe was laughing at the whole situation. He like, I got Rory and Mal's ex-co-hosts in my space. I know Joe was sitting there looking like Mace when Cameron was going off on Jim Jones while Imani is sitting here dragging Julian. And speaking of poems, this one I knew it was something up because I heard Joe say this on the last podcast.
But I'm noticing a new trend out there where people speak to their podcast co-hosts through poem, and I like it.
I never heard that.
I never saw that. I didn't see that. I didn't see it. So you went and wrote some poems about us?
Oats. Give me an example. Give me an example.
Some poems about y'all, or some poems about some poems acting like him doing the poem to whoever he was doing it for. I'm messy. I'm a messy bitch.
Oh, man.
You doing the other nigga? They got fired?
I don't know what he talking about, bro. I don't pay attention.
Dude, give me an example.
The road has been dark.
The nigga did that. I watched that shit. He be giving these monologues at the beginning. You know, life is like a box of chocolate. And I didn't know what I was going to get until I got it. Until I got it. And then when I tasted chocolate, it was obviously poison because it was handed to me by people that I put working for.
The road was dark. Opportunities far and few. You fired me. I can tell that you're emotional. Orange you?
While drinking orange juice?
Get it? Orange you. What a messy bitch. I'm getting back to my messy bitch shit later.
And if y'all don't know, Rory has the group Emotional Oranges. So, you know, he was talking about Rory and Ma and the Julian situation, and Julian doing these little lame poems, which I think are extremely fucking corny. But anyway, the last thing, I thought it was interesting when Rory said this, and I think this was the most important thing that Rory said, which was, we told Julian to chill when he was bringing up these allegations and saying this shit about Joe. So even in that moment, and when Rory said we, I'm assuming he's talking about him and Ma. But even in a moment where I guess Julian was trying to stand up for his crew, Rory is saying, no, we was telling Julian not to go that far. And if you really watch both podcasts and you watch the difference between Rory and Ma, I think Ma has completely deaded any emotion for Joe. And I saw Maul say something about that recently on another podcast where he was like, you know, it's no beef, but I could never be in the same room as Joe because I know what I would do and I know my thoughts. Did y'all see that? But I think Rory, you know, he's on friendlier terms with Joe than Maul. And I was like, yeah, there's another example of that where Rory is like, hey, we told him don't even say that stuff about Joe. So y'all let me know what y'all think about this latest podcast beef. Make sure y'all like the video and subscribe.